Hey, welcome to the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute with your host, the alchemist of Indiana's Black Forest, Alan Bishop. Hey, this channel is all about home distilling and legal distilling. If you've got questions, reach out to us in the comments below, social media, or via bishopshomegrown@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out thealchemistcabinet.com. Hey, what's up, guys? Had a few minutes here this evening and thought I'd knock out a couple One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute questions for you guys. So, hey, I just want to thank you guys again for supporting the 2025 Practical Distillers and Alchemist Almanac. It's sold extremely well. I hope you guys are getting your physical copies, and I hope you enjoy them. Gone through them, I've made notes of things I'd like to see changed or mistakes that we've made. And on the 2026 edition, which, as I've said before, I'm working on now, which I should honestly have done by July pretty easily. I'm taking the calendar pages, the astrology stuff, etc., and I'm really sort of like hammering those down, fixing things that I want fixed, putting in my methodology of astrology, that sort of thing, to where it'll be, you know, a good 20 or 30 page section on astrology, astrological magic, horoscopes, all that sort of stuff that you guys can use to actually craft your own method for reading astrology daily, or even horary stuff or birth charts, that kind of thing. But I want that to be a really condensed, really hardcore, information-filled piece of the book that will be repeatable from year to year. There's my dog, and she's going to get right in my face now, as she always does while I'm doing stuff. But hold on. Go on. Get down. I love you too. Go on. But, all right. Well, she's just going to hang out here now, as she does. But, anyways, so that's what I'm working on with the 2026 Almanac now, as well as the articles and things of that nature, some poetry, etc. But there are copies of the 2025 edition available. We just got a new shipment in. Imagine that. They're getting here on time now, miraculously, which is nice. So that being said, let's see if we can't get some questions in here if Doggo doesn't get right up in my face again. But so let's start with Will here. Quit it, Poe. Hold on, guys. I'll be right back. All right. Love my dog, but she's a lot sometimes. So from Will, I watched your video about bad mo barrels, and I wanted to share something I do with my small oak barrels. I make bourbon whiskey, corn liquor, and rye whiskey. All of these benefit from aging in oak. My rule of thumb is to age in tiny oak barrels for 1 month per liter of capacity. A 2-liter barrel should be ready in 2 months. The first fill will be done sooner than 2 months, the second fill will be pretty close, and the third fill will take more than 2 months. The bigger the barrel, the slower it ages, and the better it tastes. There's no substitute for time. Here in New Mexico, the air is dry, and the summers are hot. The whiskey ages really quickly. Because the humidity is low, the angels still more water, so the ABV rises. I always enter the barrel... excuse me, I was drinking coffee, and apparently that was a mistake. So I always enter the barrel at 50% ABV, 100 proof. I weigh the barrel and don't still any until I'm getting close to the predicted age. The weight will tell me how much the angels have taken. I test it with a hydrometer, and I immediately see that the proof has gone up. Since it still needs more time, but not more oak, I put it in the 2-quart mason jars with a wide mouth. But I don't put the tin lid on. I cut a chipboard coaster to fit the lid. The alcohol will evaporate through the cardboard and will slowly go back to 50%. It oxidizes more and the whiskey gets smoother. I have a small still and I could never fill a bad mo, let alone wait for years to test it. I just wanted to share my technique. That's a pretty creative technique, honestly. I like the idea of like having a membrane, right, that is breathable like that. Pretty damn smart, and I can imagine the amount of oxidization that you do get out of that. The only thing I'd caution you, and I'm presuming you haven't run into it yet, which is awesome, and I hope that you never do. You just got to be careful with cardboard, because that's one of the ways that you can introduce the compound furfural into distilled spirits. So furfural is literally, so if you've ever heard of cork taint in wine, it's where chlorine comes in contact with the cork. It can be from chlorine coming into contact with oak, etc. But basically, it's the smell of wet cardboard, and it's a weird compound because you go nose blind to it really quickly. So in other words, you might smell a sample and immediately get that wet cardboard aroma, and then go back to it, and you can't find it again. You can't detect it because you've gone nose blind to it. So I'd say as long as you're not having any problems wherever you're getting those coasters from, keep getting them from the same place, because it doesn't seem like they're causing you any issues. But just understand, for those who are watching the video, that is a thing that does and can happen out there, and it's not any fun. I mean, it basically ruins a batch of whiskey real quick, but brilliant idea otherwise, man. Really cool, and thank you for sharing that. If you have a source where you get those coasters from, you might drop that down in the comments below, so that other people that watch the channel can pick those up, and they know that they're getting a good quality source that's not going to cause them some problems. So let's move on to another question, but real quick, I wanted to tell you guys, I've been lucky enough to meet a couple viewers of the channel here lately and taste some of their spirits, and have really, truly enjoyed them greatly and enjoyed talking to the guys. I love meeting you guys and hearing from you and getting to talk to you in person. Show you around Old Homestead, for example. And Old Homestead is doing really well. The tasting room's open. I did my first official tour today, even though we're not officially really giving tours yet. We had some contest winners, and we showed them around. I spent about an hour with them, and then we took them to the tasting room. They really enjoyed the spirits. Specifically, they enjoyed the Sunshine Spirits, the flavored versions that we have. So we've got, cinnamon, lemon drop, black cherry, butterscotch, and root beer. But then they also really liked the spirit that I created. So it's an Alpine type spirit that we call the 9-herb charm, named after an old Norse English poem about Woden and the 9 realms and the 9 herbs of those realms, the 9 healing herbs. Something that never existed before, and something that's been selling really well for us, which really surprises me. It's very much like chartreuse or strega or something of that nature. But anyways, keep your eyes open, ears peeled for classes that will happen eventually. I don't know how quickly it'll happen. Maybe this fall we'll do the first class out at Old Homestead. I'm not sure, but I'm sure we'll be open for tours before the end of the summer. Come on out to the tasting room, though. And if you're going to be in town and I'm going to be at work, message me, see if I'm going to be around, and if I have time, I'll take you in and show you around the distillery. If you got some spirits on hand you want me to try, let me know. I'm not going to encourage you to bring any illicit spirits into my distillery, obviously. That's not legal, but, I'm always willing to make a little trip out to the parking lot and smell something, taste something, whatever. But anyways, let's see what other questions we have here. So we got one from David. Hey, Alan, I recently upgraded my system with a Thumper and a gin basket, and I'd appreciate some guidance. What has and hasn't worked well with a Thumper, i.e. fill levels, flavors, proof, etc.? Thumper is greatly affecting my yield and lengthening the hearts, but I haven't found a great way to impart flavor, even when adding after the heads. What has and hasn't worked well with a gin basket? I've noticed citrus pills work great in a basket. Many thanks for taking my questions, David. Well, I'm glad to do it, man. So for me, you expect... I think there's this sort of thing with a Thumper where with flavors you expect that you're going to pull just an absolute shit ton of flavor across. And it's typically not the case. Typically with a Thumper, it's a much more subtle, might even say earthier, darker tonality that you'll pull off. I've run all kinds of stuff in Thumpers, but citrus works really well. Citrus zest, citrus peel. I've actually taken and cut various different citrus and dried the whole fruit. That works really well. Toasted hickory bark, hickory syrup, and maple syrup have worked pretty well for me in the past. Various different botanicals like mints and lemon balm, flowers, jasmine and chamomile. Those have all worked extremely well for me in Thumpers. It's not an overwhelming amount of flavor and aroma, but when you're using a Thumper, I'm not necessarily, if I'm doing a single pass with a Thumper, in other words, putting mash in a still and running that off in a single pass, I know I'm going to, even without, I don't run a bypass there at Old Homestead, I know I'm going to lose some of that flavor, but I'm typically also not looking for that flavor to overwhelm what was already in the mash, right? If I wanted to use a Thumper to really infuse a good amount of flavor, I would just go ahead and start with clean spirit into the still itself so that I didn't have any heads and didn't have those earthier, heavier, more sulfurous elements from the fermentation itself. And I would also probably have started off with a base that was fairly neutral, like my raisin base we talked about before, with the raisins and sugar and oats and sometimes wheat, something real neutral. I've run, in Tennessee Thumpers, I've run all kinds of crazy stuff, butterscotch candies and dried fruits of all types, cherries and oranges and elderflowers, and had really good luck with all those things. I even did chocolate and cinnamon and cayenne one time, which turned out extremely well too. So you're also asking about gin baskets. So with gin baskets, almost everything except for roots work really, really well in gin baskets. And you can do roots in gin baskets too, but they come off really light. Usually if I've got some kind of root element in something, say some ginger now ginger does sometimes come off good in a gin basket. Let me rephrase that. We got something like dandelion or, angelica or licorice. You usually want those in the maceration and the still. But gin basket wise, anything volatile in particular, the citrus elements work really, really well. any plant that has a lot of aromatic compound to it, anything that, you know, is kind of perfumey or floral, all works really, really well on a gin basket. And then in terms of fill level in the Thumper, so I always go about a third full, and that's a third of either mash or a third of low wines or a third of tails or whatever you're going to put into that Thumper most of the time. You don't want to overfill it, because then, you know, you're actually going to cause some condensation to happen, and you're going to actually fill that Thumper that much more, build back pressure. It becomes a really, really dangerous sort of thing. So I hope that kind of answered your question. I think I touched on most of the things that you asked for there. But yeah, just keep playing with the Thumper and play around with your mashes. Maybe you want to make something a little bit more neutral. Dried apples work really well on Thumpers. Green apples work really well on Thumpers. Smoked apples. We've done smoked apples, peat smoked apples. We do that at Old Homestead for a product we call the Wycliffe Bell, which isn't out yet, which is a lightly barrel rested sunshine, basically made with peat smoked oats and peat smoked apples. So the hickory syrup and bark worked extremely well. But so Mike Stallings used to make sunshine, his version of sunshine, and he would actually put some L8 soda as well as some ginger root directly into the Thumper, and worked surprisingly well. So all right guys, I'm gonna jump off here and get you another video here shortly. Be sure to check out the alchemistcabinet.com, pick up the 2025 Practical Distillers and Alchemist Almanac. Keep an eye out for the 2026 edition. Both the Black Forest method book as well as the Alchemist Cabinet Philosophy Volume 1 book are both available as well over at the alchemistcabinet.com. And watch oldhomesteaddc.com for all your Old Homestead distillery and hotel news. And check out the If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything podcast. Love y'all. Later.